So, thanks, guys, for coming to the show.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself for our audience? We
Awesome.
got Frank here. We got McKenzie. Frank, why don't you go first?
Yeah, my name is Frank Santa Maria. I'm a personal injury attorney with Rafi Law Group, and I live here in Yuma, Arizona.
Awesome. And how long have you been working with Rafi?
Oh, about 3 months now.
Okay, so brand new.
Brand new.
Still in the honeymoon phase.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. And McKenzie, tell me a little about yourself.
Yeah, my name's McKenzie Bedell. I'm a supervising attorney at Rafi Law Group. Been there about 3.5 years. Still kind of in the honeymoon phase, honestly. It's a lot of fun, a lot of good times.
3.5 years still in the honeymoon phase. Wow.
I keep falling more in love, actually.
Oh,
It's
nice.
a great place to work, and the work that we do gets you out of bed in the morning.
So what do you love most about it then?
What do I love most about Rafi Law Group? It's hard to say.
Or even the practice of law in general?
Well, the practice of law in general, so I'd be lying if I didn't say suits the show was about 15% of why I wanted to become a lawyer.
Right?
The high
It's a great show.
great show, high flying drama, and being able to help people. But
Do you have a Donna in your office?
we got a Donna. Her name is Linda Swazo.
Okay.
Make sure everything goes.
Somebody that actually gets it all done.
She make sure the trains run on time.
Yeah.
But getting Bill Kellhofer, managing attorney, I know he did the show with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Told me in my interview that a $1 billion company would never thank you, and our clients will thank us all the time because we really do help them, in their lives, and something that is a really tragic and traumatic event that upends their lives. And I had a client 6 weeks on the job call me crying because of the net settlement, which I got her, which in like absolute terms wasn't a lot, but it really changed her life, helped her pay off debt. And she called me again a week later crying, and she's like, I think I've called you about this. I can't remember, but like this net settlement changed my life, and I was just hooked ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is my favorite part. A close second is just the people we work with. It's a good culture, great fit, and it's a great place to work.
So, Frank, what attracted you to go to the Rafi Law Group?
So I was meeting the people. I was working here at Yuma County in the legal defender office, and Rafi was opening up the local office here, and so I drove by it every day, and it caught my attention. I think it's details do matter. So literally the color on the building, the signage, the people saying hi, talking to you. It made me intrigued about what this law firm was doing and what they were doing with their expansion. And so I got to meet the managing attorney, Bill. We sat down to lunch, and we kind of grew a little bit of an acquaintanceship and a friendship. And they made a job offer and said, hey, you can continue to help people. You can just do it on the private side.
Right.
So I took him up on that offer because I'd never done personal injury law before. I was a litigator in the criminal law side, retired JAG from Navy and criminal defense. And so I became too intrigued to not take that opportunity. And so it's been very exciting, and to get a whole new practice area and to learn a different side of the law and meet people not inside of a jail cell is very nice.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. So I want to know, for our listeners out there, probably every single person has been in a car accident. Martine?
You haven't? Or you've been in many?
No, actually, I just got out of one. I got crashed in August, and
Yeah.
I didn't get my car back until almost end of November.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so it affects all of us.
Yeah.
So, McKenzie, you've been in a car accident, right?
Surprisingly, I've only been in one parking lot.
Really? Just a
Yes.
fender bender?
I was parked, backwards from the car into the car spot. There was this huge F-350 next to me, and so I'm pulling out just super slow. And as soon as I get past the F-350, a van just kind of hits me,
Oh.
and not much. I just blew his tire out, and caused some damage to my car. But thankfully, that's the only car accident I've ever been in.
Really?
It's
That's
knock
unique.
on wood. Where's
No,
the wood?
and now there's plenty around the walls here. So, Frank, how about you been in a car accident? You don't have to tell me which one or whatever.
I mean, the most notable one was my first one when I was, a very young person, and it was the very first date with my now wife, and her head went into the windshield, and I went flying. And,
Really?
Yeah, accidents happen. Yeah, you never know.
Well, I was in a car accident apparently when I was a baby, and this is pre-seatbelt laws. I was in the back seat of a Suburban, and I think a wheel blew out and the car started going down a ravine, and I flew from one seat to the next and was caught by one of my siblings.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been in multiple car accidents since then, just fender benders, this or that. I grew up in northern Idaho, and we'd end up in the ditch every week, it seemed like, when it was wintertime. One that was an interesting one for me, let me think. I did hit a deer one time and go off of a major ravine where the car careened, like in the movies, off of the ravine and tumbled 7 times.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was a pretty big deal, but it seems like that's something that affects all of us. Yeah. So like estate planning, it's going to impact everybody, but whether or not they get the assistance that they need is the difference. And that's why we love having you guys on the show, because everybody needs to hear what you have to say. They need to understand the nuances of what the attorneys see from the inside out that they don't understand. So one of the things is I want to just go through a scenario. You can make it up, hypothetical. I know you've got so many real cases in your head that it would probably be easy enough just to throw together a scenario where walk me through the first stage of a typical accident that an individual should know if they were to do everything right, as far as the first thing from calling the police to the insurance to an attorney.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the most typical is, A car rear ends B car, and B car would be the not at fault party. Honestly, the first thing you should do is call the police. And if that person's begging you not to call the police, don't listen to them, because a police report's a very important part of evidence that we need in the beginning. Obviously, make sure that you're okay physically. Get medical attention. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I cannot, this is as a person, if you're bleeding or something, or throwing up, or have clear injuries, make sure to seek medical attention.
But sometimes you've got so much adrenaline pumping that you don't know that you're injured. So that's an important step.
That is an important step. Usually, like you said, you have a lot of adrenaline and the shock factor of it. It wears off. It's very, very common. Mostly objective injuries like bleeding or something like that is what happens. The next thing, I wouldn't even call your insurance. I'd call an attorney. The insurance from the very get-go.
Okay, so police, hospital, or
urgent
ambulance,
care, something, yeah.
And when you call the police, they're probably going to call an ambulance, right? Doesn't the dispatcher do that?
Not necessarily. Usually the AMR will be dispatched if they're reported injuries to the police. Usually it's just the police that show up to the scene.
Okay.
Just to report it.
Okay, so where do you call? What number do you call to make sure an ambulance is going to be on its way?
911, I would assume.
But that's who I'd call for calling the police, right?
Yeah, I believe the dispatch is the same. They just have to know that fire department or medevac needs to be dispatched to the scene. But if people call and they say, well, is anyone injured? They say no, which they may not realize that they're injured. One of the most common things we see is concussions. They won't dispatch, it's limited resources. So if there was reported no injuries at the scene, they're not going to dispatch the resources.
Okay.
The next thing is I wouldn't even call your insurance company. I would call an attorney, even though they're your insurance company. And some of them have commercials where they try to sell to the public that they're your friend. In my opinion, they're looking for any
Those are all the commercials out there.
Those are all the commercials, yeah.
We got your back. You call us, tree falls on your car, whatever. They got these scenarios going on. You could call us. Yep.
And, at the end of the day, they still are companies that are for profit. And they do care about their bottom lines. And, if you call the insurance at the beginning and they'll ask you questions that sound harmless but can really trap you in the beginning, like, oh, no, I'm okay, I'm not injured. Well, they're recording that from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they're going to pull that out when you get medical care and we send the demand. Well, they said that they were fine at the scene. I use that argument that you brought up all the time. They're shot up with adrenaline. They have shock. They don't realize these things. Also, they're not a doctor. They can't make that assessment. I would then, next step's call an attorney.
Yeah.
Because we see it every day. The insurance companies doing all that they can to take advantage of people who are not knowledgeable with the law, not knowledgeable insurance regulations. And
so if they call your office, what can they expect to, what does that interaction look like?
So if they call the office reporting with an accident, they'll get a very happy receptionist to talk with them, and they'll get them over to an intake specialist. and from there we'll get all the necessary information to get them to sign up. And from there they will meet an attorney, and an attorney will go over the legal case with them and get them.
So
to
if
help
it's here
them
in
meet.
town, they're going to meet with Frank.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here. I live here. I'm local. I've lived here for about a year and a half. I'll be in that office. You'll be able to come and talk to an attorney in person, which a lot of law firms can't say that. But we can say that here, and you would be dealing with me and with our other attorney in the office, Robert. I mean, he's great.
Yeah, we
that's
had
the kind
him
of
on the
service.
show, I believe, too. Him and Bill were on the show at the same time, I think.
Yeah, in September, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they come in and they talk with you, and you ask them questions that they may not even thought about. And at least that's what happens in interviews with me. They come into the interview, and some of these questions are like, oh, and it's an epiphany to them that is something that needs to be considered. And so you walk them through all of the areas that need to be considered, where a lot of times they're shooken up. They've got not only the trauma of going through the accident, but having probably their car is now not functioning, and they're trying to get everything with that settled out. So you just kind of focusing on what needs to happen to make sure they're taken care of in the long run. What does that interview look like?
So the interview will pretty much go from the case from the very beginning where we're at right now into the projection of where it will end, and being very detailed with them, telling them, when they get with their doctors, to be overly honest with them. They're the experts. There's no such thing as too much information. Don't miss your appointments. It'll, the insurance company will try to use that against you, and just, do everything your doctor tells you to do to get you better. Don't stop seeing doctors till you're 1,000% better. We lay out the entire case for them from start to finish, from the very beginning, so that they're armed with the tools and the knowledge to be able to be made whole.
Yeah. And that's the whole purpose of insurance, right? We all put together our premiums collaboratively to say, okay, when one of us gets hurt, then all those premiums are going to help that person be restored to the point that they were before. Now, we all know that's never truly going to happen, because that whiplash or those injuries and even the trauma that occurs from it lasts for years afterwards. I remember we got into what I felt like was a pretty minor accident. We got rear-ended, and we reported no injuries at the time, but my wife has never been able to sleep on her stomach since.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her neck it never really recovered from that. And because we didn't go through and go to the hospital and get everything checked up, the insurance denied personal injury claims. So I've been through that personally, and that's why I enjoy having you guys on the show, so people can understand, okay, I've been in an accident. I'm not being a jerk by insisting that the police come. I'm not being a jerk by calling an attorney to make sure they're looking after my interest. My insurance company, they're going to have their own attorneys.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the insurance attorneys and you?
Well, so I don't think in a normal PI case, the insurance will have an attorney reach out to you. They'll have their adjusters reach out to you.
Right.
Yeah, and they are not attorneys.
They act like ones, though.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the most sickening things that really breaks my heart that we see a lot, sadly, is the insurance will call and act as if they have the insured's best interest in mind, and lock them into a just spitballing here, but about $2,000 to $5,000 settlement right off the bat, and maybe $2,000 in future medical payments, total of $7,000.
But it sounds like a lot right off the bat when you're just throwing numbers out, and you've come from, I'm just going home from work, to now I've got a $5,000 check.
Yeah.
And but in the big scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket.
In the big scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, we never know from the first day what we're dealing with when it comes to the insurance limits, but if a farmer's insurance adjuster calls you and they try to lock you into $5,000, you never know, that policy could be $100,000, and then you would be entitled to receive treatment up to that $100,000. And you see the photos of these vehicles where it's like completely caved in from the backside, and I'm like, $5,000 isn't going to get you like an ER visit.
Right.
So it's unfortunate, and they lock you in even with an oral acceptance of it over a recorded call, and you
Right.
can't undo that.
So what should they do then? They talk to you first, and then you talk to the insurance company on their behalf. So they don't actually directly talk to the insurance company. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. We allow the insurance companies to reach out to them regarding property damage. It's easier than us middlemaning it. We know when they will be reaching out and what they'll be saying. But I always tell my clients, it's your job to get treatment, get better, go do your thing, take the legal stress off your shoulders, place in my mind, so so you can sleep at night if we don't.
Yeah. So I guess that's a slippery slope then. If they're talking to them about the property damage, do they ever, the insurance companies attempt to overstep their bounds and talk about the personal injury as well, or will they respect that confined scope of questioning to the property damage?
They won't respect it. They don't have an ethical duty to do so. And, with my clients, I always prepare them. If they ask anything other than property damage, just ignore it. Just tell them to direct them to your attorneys. That's why you hired us. We're here to handle that portion. If it's, again, if it's not about the car, where to pick up your car, where to pick up the rental, where to drop off the car, then just tell them, call my attorneys.
So attorneys get a bad rep because they have the reputation of making the process go longer. They have the reputation of making the process more expensive, and everybody looks down their nose until they need one. And then when they need one, boy, are they glad to have somebody that is proficient at what they do. And there are a lot of nuances. What are the nuances that you see every day that attorneys really are able to benefit or understands that benefits the public or the clients that they don't see? It goes under the radar and is underappreciated.
A nuance that we see every single day with every single case, which not even the public knows, is I didn't know this in law school. So I only learned it when I came to Rafi Law Group. Is you would think what would be you would assume common knowledge is that there's only two insurance policies to go after: the person that hit you and then your own. But even then, some people only think that it's just the person that hit you. They don't know that they have uninsured motorist coverage or underinsured motorist coverage. The insurance companies usually don't do a good job of explaining that to people. When some clients come in and say they have full coverage, what they really have is liability, property, and collision, and they don't actually insure themselves, which is what uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage do. The other,
so they don't insure themselves. So for personal injury, that they're not covered under their own insurance.
Yeah, exactly. So uninsured motorist coverage takes the place of someone who hits you that doesn't have insurance to cover your own medical bills. And underinsured motorist coverage is when the other person's liability policy does not cover your medical bills. So state minimum is $25. You got $40,000 in medical bills. Your underinsured motorist policy, if you have the state minimum, is another $25. So you've got $50,000 to work with.
See, and that's something that really opened my mind when I was talking to Bill and Robert, was that you're not necessarily just accident experts, but insurance experts.
Yeah.
Knowing the insurance is something that none of us, we get the opportunity to really read through the fine print, and even if we do, they're not going to allow us to mark it up and revise it to have the terms represent what we want. So it's like take it or leave it type thing. So obviously we have to have insurance. We have to live in the real world. So we're going to have to go out and find an insurance policy with an agent that we can feel like is assisting us to get the coverage that we need. But when it comes to actually using that coverage, it's a whole area of law. I mean, I couldn't, as an estate planning attorney, go into that field and feel at all adequate in representing somebody with that type of claim, because there's just all of the aspects like the insurance that I don't even know to look for.
Yeah.
What are some other policies that might be out there that might come into play that me or another person that doesn't do this every day wouldn't know to look for?
Well, medical payments coverage is a good one. The state law allows up to $5,000, which is basically, we like to say, free money. And what I mean by that is if you have a $5,000 medical payments coverage, the insurance company cannot subrogate, which is just a fancy term for ask for their money back against a third-party settlement, which is the person that hit you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and another nuance talking to that is that there's actually an appellate court case in Arizona where, say you got 2 state minimums, total 50, and someone's got your own insurance policy, say you got a $25,000 medical payments coverage, and say you've got $100,000 in bills. Well, obviously your case is worth more than $100,000, but we only have 50 in insurance money and 25 in the medical payments.
Okay.
Well, there's actually an appellate court case that says that the insurance company has a duty to waive their subrogation rights over $5,000 because their insured has not been made whole from the accident. And so where they could normally subrogate dollar for dollar against your settlement with the defendant, we can actually go for the full $25,000, and they have a duty to waive their subrogation rights. And I've done that, it's rare, but I've done it a handful of times because it is just a rare occurrence. I did have one time a client, she had a no UIM and $100,000 in medical payments, which is actually bad faith on the insurance company by not telling her like these nuances, like, hey, it's actually better for you to have $100,000 underinsured. And so we were able to go after the whole $100,000 and have them waive the rights.
Okay. And I picked up about half of that. And that's coming from someone that's gone through law school and been in the law practice for, 17 years. And so for your clients, like all of those acronyms and the different lingo that you used is further evidence that you probably shouldn't go about this on your own. Now, it's 30% is my understanding for a contingency fee, right?
It varies. Our firm charges 35% in pre-litigation, 45% in the event of litigation, mediation, arbitration.
Okay, so let's start with 35%. If somebody says, well, if I go out this on my own, then I don't have to pay that attorney 35%. But 35%, I mean, you just got to look at how big is a pie. You're going to get a much smaller pie if you go after it on your own. Yeah, you might get 100% of that very small pie, but getting 70% and giving up 30% to the attorney, 35%, whatever it may be, that the size of the pie makes all the difference.
The size of the pie makes all the difference. And, at Rafi Law Group, we make a promise to every single client that we never take more in attorney's fees than the client gets in their net settlement.
That was an interesting thing that came up as well, too. Explain that concept to me, because that's something that a lot of people misunderstand, or it probably isn't even some policy that is universal between personal injury attorneys.
I can't speak to other firms. I've only had one legal job, and that's been at Rafi Law Group, so I don't know the other practices of other firms. But, yeah, so, I mean, if, we get down to the end of the case with the settlement distribution sheet and the numbers have not worked into the client's favor where they're getting more money than our attorney's fees, we will reduce our attorney's fees to where the client's getting more than ours. So we make that promise to every client that we'll never take more money than them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was just on the phone with a client whose husband had been in an auto accident, gone through the process a few years back. And she was saying, is this going to be like the last time where he got $500 for a catastrophic accident? So it goes to what you're saying, where
everything
legal
got
fees and
eaten
medical
up.
fees can eat up everything, and that's not how we operate here.
Yeah, that's a good deal. So what about, tell me what happens with some claims for minors where they get a settlement. What do they do, and how do you help them manage that money so it's just not this lump sum that is going to potentially create more harm than good?
Yeah, so in the state of Arizona, to Rule 53 for the probate rules, that we have to file for what's called a conservatorship, and the parents are entitled to be the conservators. Mm-hmm. Normally, there's a lot of variables that go into that to where we'll give the parents options for the direction of money. Obviously, if the client's going to turn 18 in a couple of years, it's kind of dangerous to put it into the stock market or anything. But I did have a one-day-old client, my youngest client ever.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that was one of my funnest cases. Scariest case, but one of the funnest because we were able to get him a very, very great net settlement and was able to put it into a managed brokerage that he'll be able to access when he's 18.
Okay. So there's the Uniform Transfer to Minors Act account. They call it an UTMA account. Do you use those accounts, or do you use trusts, or what type of entity or legal form do you use to hold that money?
They're restricted accounts with, financial brokerages. So they have their mechanisms. I actually don't know if it's Utah or any of those ones. But it does have to meet certain strict requirements that it has to be a restricted account. Some of them can be just restricted accounts with a federally accredited bank and a high yield savings account. So it gathers, 4 or 5% interest or whatever the prevailing interest rate is at the time. Sometimes we can as well do structured settlements where clients can get an annuity over a certain period of time. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but there are flexible options that we can do.
And what are the factors that you're looking at when you're helping the clients determine that? Do you walk them through that process, or do you refer them to another attorney that handles specifically the settlement aspect of it?
No, we have our conservatorship department in-house. I run our probate department. And so I will walk the clients through, and whatever the attorney is settling, what their options are, what they look like. And, we can only lead them to water. I can't make decisions for them. If we have a client that's 8 years old that's getting $20,000 in net settlement, it's best to put it into a brokerage. The stock market only goes up over time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so these types of accounts, let's say that it's a large amount. Let's say we're going to go $500,000. And an individual that reaches 18, if I got access to $500,000 when I was 18, that would have been gone.
Yeah.
Right? So what other options do you have to allow them to not waste all of that money?
For something that large, it would be best probably to do structured settlement, where they would get a specific payout over a specific amount of years and not access to the full amount.
So what are the rules about that? Because it seems like if it's their money, you hear the Britney Spears case where she didn't have access to her own money, and the public sentiment is, if it's their money, give them access to it. But oftentimes people are financially immature, and that money can, like I say, cause more damage than good. So what is the parameters as to how much you can restrict their access to their own money? You're doing it for their own benefit. You're not getting the money, but you're trying to help them for their own benefit. But obviously there's going to be some limitations on that.
To be honest, I haven't found much limitations as long as the options fit within the parameters of the law.
But it's got to be court approved.
It's got to be court approved. But for your case, if there was a $500,000 net settlement to a minor child, we could talk about splitting it third into a structured settlement that pays an annuity over a certain amount of time that starts paying out maybe when they're 30. You could put a third into the stock market immediately and allow it to enjoy the gains of the stock market, and then you could even put a third into a restricted high yield savings account or into CDs and bonds that the client would have access to at least a third of it upon their 18th birthday.
And the people that are going to be named as the conservators are going to be their parents, so they get to determine how that restricted account is used. And what are there restrictions as to how the parents can use it for their kids' benefit?
Yeah. So what I find a lot within the probate department is the court expects parents to pay for parental things, medical bills, kids wanting to go on this senior retreat in high school.
Well, braces, something like that. That's kind of like an in-between thing.
It's an in-between thing. The court will usually look to the financial socioeconomic status of the clients. If it's going to be, we've been putting this off for years because we don't have the money to do it. Mm-hmm. We don't have health insurance. I've had braces actually approved a few times. But
it's not, so braces does not automatically fit under there. Braces may or may not.
Nothing's automatic, honestly.
Really?
Nothing's automatic. It depends on the judge. It depends on...
So the car for a kid, that's turned 16 years old.
I've had that. Yeah, because that one's actually some judges see that as not the parent's responsibility to buy.
Okay.
They do have to make sure that they have enough money for insurance, and all these transactions are approved in theory. In the order, the parents still need to bring sufficient evidence to the court for the bank then to get approval to release the funds.
So this is going to be years after the fact. How do the parents keep getting access to the court? Do you guys keep getting involved, or what? How does that work?
We withdraw after we set up the restricted account. I mean, we're always going to be there if they do need some assistance, but the clerk of the court and the court systems are very helpful. And
So they can go directly to the court and just represent themselves on those that matters.
Correct.
Okay. You recommend that?
From my experience, like they're the judges are very, very friendly in that court. The probate
Judges
courts.
seem to be more friendly to people that represent themselves than the people that are represented by attorneys. They hold the attorneys to a pretty high standard.
They do, and they should. We in theory should know what we're doing and know what we're talking about. But the courts and the judges and commissioners in the probate department are very helpful, and that's the only time I'd recommend a conservator to go to the court by themselves, or any person to go to the court by themselves.
Well, I know that I have an ideal client that would come in. It would be somebody that is, 60 years old, maybe just retired or looking at retirement. They've got a couple of adult children. They've got some retirement accounts, a house and a car, and they want to make sure that all of their assets are going to be managed properly if they become incapacitated, and then distributed to who they want to go to when they die. And that's the beautiful case. It's easy, and those are rarely the ones I get. Usually people don't come into attorneys because everything's working out, right? They come to attorneys when they're not working out. So what is your ideal case?
So some of the things that we look for is it's kind of awkward, isn't it, McKenzie? Because the more severe of a case, the more severe the injury to the client, raising the value of the case.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost,
It's going to be more complex.
It is. And so some things we look at is going back to the med pay and the uninsured motorist. We always look for that. It's one of the first things I'm looking for, because for your listeners, think about when you're out driving around. Most of the people around you have a minimum state policy. They have $25,000, and they hit you, and you are now injured, and you have months of medical treatment. You have a lot of damages at that point because you were hit. With the way things cost now, with inflation post-COVID, do you really think $25,000 is going to get you back to normal and then put money in your pocket? Do you really think that's enough money out there?
Right.
It's probably not.
Because your whole life is disrupted. I mean, your job
hijacks our clients' entire lives.
Yeah, their workout routine, their family time.
You think $25,000 would compensate a person for having your entire life hijacked? Of course not. That's why the uninsured motorists and underinsured motorists exists. And so I just encourage people to look at your actual policy. I did it when I started here at Rafi. I said, look, I barely have enough underinsured motorists. I need to increase that. Because you just don't think, even as an attorney, you're not thinking about these things. So an ideal client would come in with plenty of uninsured motorist coverage to make sure that they're made whole, because there's only so much money in these policies. It's the biggest frustration that our clients have is, why isn't there more money for me to be made whole?
I've heard that one reason that policy premiums are expensive and that Arizona premiums are one of the more expensive ones is because there's a higher percentage of uninsured motorists. Is that just a wives' tale, or have you guys found that to be true, or do we know anything about that?
I'd say about 15% of cases have no insurance to pursue.
15%.
So yeah, 15 out of every 100 people you see driving don't have any insurance.
And we don't even know the accurate number, I would say, because we have so many hit and runs where you don't know what that person's situation is. Is it a drunk driver? Are they not insured? What's going on? Why did this person run? Mm-hmm. And so the only
maybe
remedy,
they got a felony out for them,
exactly,
or like
they have
a warrant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yes, that's something you everyone needs to have uninsured motorists, in my opinion.
It could be as high as 25%, which is basically just 1 in 5 people don't have any insurance, and then that's like no insurance at all. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, what he's saying is that a lot of people don't have uninsured motorist coverage to cover themselves, which to your listeners, I highly recommend everyone listening to this call their insurance company, get their uninsured motorist coverage. The reason they don't tell you about it is because of how damn cheap it is. I have a $300,000 single limit on mine, and it's, I think, about $75 for the whole 6-month premium period.
Wow.
So if you break that down,
$150 a year.
That was going to be
$150 a year.
my next point. Is you don't realize how inexpensive this coverage is. We're talking about a few dollars per month
Wow.
that can completely change your financial life.
And that's what I got with my last interview with Bill and Robert. It was more about insurance than the collision aspect and the hospital stay and the court and the litigation. It was like insurance. We got to be experts about insurance. And it really opened my mind to that. How do I know what insurance company to go to? How do I know how to read the policy? It's like you got to go to get a whole degree in insurance policies to understand that. So what have you found? Who would you recommend? And what are the steps? I mean, AI is helpful, but what can you recommend to our listeners as somebody that has seen good insurance policies and ones that hide the small print that try to deny coverage or limit it?
So I would say I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for this or anything, but the best I would say is Geico.
Is Geico really good?
Geico's the best. And I've had them personally for about, like 11 years now. And even before I was a lawyer, they were on top of everything, taking care of everything. And because to your question of car accidents, I've only been in one, but there have been times where I come back and my car is like dented and I'm like, what the heck happened? And so I've had that happen a lot, about 4 times. And Geico, when I used my collision coverage, they did not raise my rate because I was not at fault.
That was going to be my next question. I'll get back to that
Okay.
because that's an issue in and of itself, but keep going.
But they're really good. They're on top of it. And so one thing that frustrates me, and it's going to frustrate Frank a lot as well if it hasn't already, is that the insurance companies have a duty to protect their insured from unnecessary litigation. I think Geico's the only one that takes that seriously. So there are certain companies who I will not name by name that I think put their profits over their people and their policyholders and push them into unnecessary litigation
And is that because they want to make a statement out there to anybody that's making a claim, hey, we're going to take this to court. Like, this doesn't scare us. And that forces potentially a lower settlement agreement because going to court costs more to everybody?
It could be. I don't know what their reasonings are for it, but we're not afraid to go to trial. It's what we went to school for, and they will owe us attorney's fees at the end anyway. So, but yeah, Geico I think is the only one that takes that seriously and gives fair offers on both sides of the ball. Third party, which is defendant insurance.
See, and I wouldn't even think that with Geico, and this is probably a backhanded compliment, but they're so commercialized. You see their commercials everywhere. You would think that it would be an inflated premium for what they're actually covering. But I've heard several times now that Geico actually is one of the better, more just straightforward, honest companies.
Yeah, no, they are. I guess I could say agree with you as well. Straightforward, honest, because there are some companies that we've had to litigate just because the offers are like, I wouldn't let my mother accept this. I'm not going to let my client accept this. And we litigate them for a year and a half, and someone above board or in their management is going like, look, if we just settled this for what they wanted, we wouldn't have lost all this money in attorney's fees. And so, the offers get better. At Geico, I've been here 3.5 years and they haven't changed. They're just great offers. They take care, and especially in the first party side. So first party would be your insurance. They really care about their people and want to make sure that they're made whole.
Well, now they should get you on a commercial.
That might be conflict of interest. I'm not sure. But
that was going to be another question following up is you know so much about the insurance policies and you know who does good and who doesn't. And it would seem like, are there litigation, personal injury law firms that work with insurance companies and collaborate together?
No, I wouldn't say on the plaintiff side.
Yours doesn't.
No,
is
we
what
don't.
You're saying.
We don't cooperate. Like, we don't collaborate or cooperate with them. We zealously represent all of our clients. I mean, there are law firms who their entire revenue stream is from the insurance companies, but those are defense counsels. So, but I don't know anyone that collaborates with them.
So when you say defense counsel, that's like what they're doing is typically representing big companies that have a lot of vehicles out there on the road, and they represent the insurance company that insures all of those vehicles. And so inevitably, some of the employees for that company are going to get in accidents, and claims are going to be made against the insurance company. And so they come in right away, and all day long they're defending the insurance company and making sure that the smallest amount of money is paid out for that claim. Am I painting an accurate picture here?
Painting an accurate picture, and then on top of that, I mean, some of the insurance companies have in-house litigators. I know Allstate does, State Farm. They have attorneys on their dime that they employ, and then there are firms that hire local law firms that'll, if we file a lawsuit, they're hiring this law firm to defend it, which all insurance contracts, your insurance company has a duty to hire you counsel if you get sued over an accident. So that's the defense counsel as well.
And obviously they're going to want to put a lot of their resources into their defense counsel, because the settlement, the judgment, whatever it is that determines how much they're going to pay out, all is dependent on how good their defense attorneys are. So the defense attorneys in law school, I remember looking at the higher paying jobs when you graduated, and it seemed like the ones that were in the high rises were the insurance defense attorneys. Is that still the case? That was 2 decades ago, so I don't know if that's still the case.
I know Skeleton Hockley is a really nice building in downtown Phoenix. A lot of them, the local guys, and they have really nice buildings in Biltmore, in the Phoenix area. But
yeah, so it's this defense attorneys for the insurance. They're the ones that the money. That's where the high salaries come in, because insurance companies have a lot of money to pay for that.
Just Google 2024 retained earnings, Allstate retained earnings, State Farm, whatever giant insurance company you want. Just take a look at the publicly traded companies and what they have just in retained earnings in their bank account. It's in the billions just for 1 year.
Yeah.
So yes, insurance defense is a good gig for them, and they make a lot of money doing it and downplaying our clients' accidents and fighting.
So if you're a law student, you want to look at maybe potentially, if you're looking at just the bottom line, working for a defense insurance company.
No. Don't go to the dark side.
Those lawyers are not that excited about the work they do, just from my experience in talking with them.
That's what I wanted. Yeah,
They don't feel. We feel much happier coming home from work than they do. In my opinion,
I wholeheartly agree with that statement, and it's a dual effect.
They get paid more. No, I interned for insurance. That's what I was in law school. The firm that I went and worked with was an insurance defense firm. So that's what we did. Yeah. And I tell you what, it was what I thought I wanted, because I looked at the statistics as to like the salary coming out of law school. And it was one of the higher end, just starting salaries. And so I was like, well, that's where I want to be. And those guys were dressed spiffy. They were in the nicer buildings. They had the company leased car. And I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. But after doing it for 2 years, just as an intern, I felt like, I wonder if I'm ever going to get that part of my soul back.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that you have to contemplate. PI, plaintiff attorneys, do get a bad rap. I mean, I believed it before I ever got hired here, and that, our clients they're not that hurt. We're just billboard lawyers trying to, milk money from insurance companies. And it's, I got a tinfoil hat conspiracy that the insurance companies donate lots of money to law school for law schools to teach us that. Not proven. It's just, again, tinfoil hat I got.
Yeah.
But no, we make a difference in these people's lives every single day, and something that's very traumatic and hard for them. That I think something that adds to that trauma is they didn't cause it. It's unexpected.
Yeah.
On top of that, we're very, very well compensated, and so we get that dual effect. Like Frank was saying, we get to leave and have a smile on our face knowing that we did great work. My soul is full. Like that client that had 6 weeks in that called me crying twice in a week. I've had so many moments like that over the last 3.5 years that makes so much of it worth it. And on top of that, we're the best thing I think about PI in terms of lawyering and how revenue is driven by lawyers is I never have to bill an hour. You get paid, you get compensated for the value you create.
That will drain you more than anything, and that's what I think the public doesn't like about attorneys in general. Is every time they call for a typical attorney that bills by the hour, is that they're getting billed for it, whether it's a call just to resolve maybe even an invoice issue, it seems like. And I know that there are ethical rules against billing for asking questions about the billing or the time that you spend putting into billing. But the companies that I worked for that billed by the hour, I would say a good third of our total resources went to counting the time that we spent on a case and then delegating that to the actual invoice and to the client and the collections. And I'm like, I don't want to spend a third of my time counting my time.
Yeah.
I want to spend it focusing on resolving the problem.
Well, I have California attorney friends. I went to law school in California and barred there, and I talked to them about insurance defense because that's what they do. Mm-hmm. No one's ever said a positive thing about hourly billing, and I just hate
and those insurance defense attorneys do the hourly billing,
and they do it every day. And I'm like, I would never consider what you considered just because of that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. The insurance defense firms, they do like to present that image that you're talking about of the suits, of the glass tower, because when we are negotiating with an adjuster, one of the negotiating tactics is, we have this law firm in Phoenix that will defend our guy as a negotiation. You don't want to go up against these.
Yeah, good luck with this guy. Yeah,
$1,000 an hour lawyers. When the reality is, the facts are the facts and the law is the law, and we're not going to be, intimidated by a firm. Mm-hmm. But that's a ploy, and they get this image out into the community that you can't go up against insurance because they have the best lawyers.
The David and Goliath scenario.
Exactly.
It's a David and Goliath scenario, and David did win that fight.
That's right. I gotta remember that next time they say that. I don't get put in those scenarios every time. And I'll tell you why. Because being a lawyer, I know that people have access, in estate planning specifically, with AI and the internet and everything else that's out there, legal document preparers, to prepare an estate plan for them. And the people will come into me and ask me all the time, why would I pay you thousands of dollars to do something that I could do online for hundreds of dollars, or down at the the local strip mall with a document preparer for a couple $100s? And it's really hard to try to help them understand. I'm asking questions, and I'm going through years of experience and making sure you're protected in ways that you aren't even thinking about. Mm. And the most important thing about getting the plan right is addressing the correct questions that you're not even thinking about. And I'm thinking about these because my reputation depends on it. That .com company is not going to care about one bad review when they've got tens of thousands of clients. That legal document preparer that spent, I don't know how much, yes, do I mean to knock legal document preparers? Yes, I do. Adamantly, because I get so many families in that felt like they had an appropriate plan in place, and it ends up costing them twice or three times as much because of this false sense of security that they had. Mm-hmm. And knowing the nuances of what goes into it is all the difference in the world. And so those insurance, just understanding what insurance claims that you need to look for, what injuries that you see over long periods of time from clients that you've been meeting with for over years. Those are the things that you're aware of. The fact that my wife can't sleep on her stomach, I wouldn't know that when we were 21 years old and got in the car accident, and now we're 45, and those aches and pains are really getting serious, but those are things you think of. Another thing that I wanted to bring up that I want you to talk about a little bit is, let's say that you get in a fender bender and there doesn't appear to be any damage on the vehicle. And that vehicle gets reported as being in an accident. What does that do to the value of the vehicle?
Diminished value claim, yeah, that does happen. Usually, if there's not really much damage reported, I actually had that happen with my vehicle 2 years ago when I had to trade in and get a new one.
Exactly. You don't see it until afterwards, and so these are the nuances that we got to make the public aware of now.
Yeah, we can go after diminished value claims. Usually, it is based off the property damage. We have an expert that he used to work for State Farm, I believe, for 25 years. He writes our reports, and we go after for the diminished value of what the client lost just due to the accident and property damage.
So, to clarify this issue a little bit more, when you're looking for a car, and you're looking whether you're on Car Gurus or you go to Carvana or if you're looking to buy private, there's going to be a specific line item that says, has this car been in an accident? And if it's been in an accident, it's going to bring down the value of the car significantly.
Correct.
And that is something that if you get in an accident and maybe it's just a minor, it literally is a fender and it gets repaired, it's going to be reported as being in an accident. And you may think, well, yeah, they paid for the fender. It looks good, matches the paint, everything looks okay. But again, there's a ton of time that goes out of your personal schedule to do it. And then later on, when you go to sell that cars today, $50,000 car is not... that's pretty much the standard for a new car, right?
I think it's the average new car price around now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to take that car value down significantly. So understanding that and calling an attorney and saying, listen, I just got in this fender bender, you could help them understand, okay, there's going to be some more to it.
Yeah.
And help them recover not only what they lost now, but their future losses.
Yeah, and the one thing that I would advise everyone is to keep all the records from that, because you can also prove that up. That happened to me with my car, and I had the records of the repair, and I was like, look, someone just knocked off my my side mirror. So it gets reported as an accident, but it was just a side mirror. I have all the records. One of them was a paint scratch. So
yeah, I
would advise everyone just to keep those records, because the Carfax does just say accident date. It doesn't show severity or anything of that nature. As well, call an attorney. We'll get you that diminished value from the insurance company today, the present value of that money.
Yeah, 100%. Because even if it is just a mirror and you can show it, the dealers oftentimes, when they're giving you the trade-in value of your vehicle, it's a formula.
Yeah.
And so it's well, we're not going to take that in consideration every time. We don't have time to assess everybody's personal situation and go into the credibility of what actually happened. We just know it's been in an accident. That's going to bring it down 20%.
Yep. And on top of that, I would say if you've been in a minor fender bender, or what you would subjectively consider minor, if you start feeling pain, I always tell people pain, discomfort, numbness, tingliness, or soreness. Those are all signs of soft tissue injuries within your spine. I've settled 6-figure cases on where I'm looking at the car and I'm like, I don't really see much of the damage, like a $1,000 estimate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of studies out there coming out now recently that there is actually no correlation between the amount of property damage or the severity of impact to causation of injuries.
Really?
Yes. If you're injured in a minor fender bender, or what would subjectively be called a minor fender bender, and you're having pain, believe yourself, trust yourself, get checked out, call an attorney, because you could have had a 5 millimeter disc bulge that you didn't feel before because you were, it's like a frog in boiling water. If you have the frog in the water and then boil it, it's not going to jump out. But that can aggravate the injury that you never knew that you had.
Right. Another thing is, so when, try to phrase this properly, an individual is in an accident and they don't file a claim, how long until the statute of limitations runs?
2 years from the date of the accident.
2 years. And so,
unless they're hit by a government vehicle.
Oh, and then what is it?
State government, yeah.
Yeah, state government. Then they have 6 months to file their notice?
6 months to file notice of claim.
Yeah, that you're going to file a claim.
Then you have 6 months to file a lawsuit after that.
It may not be obvious to the individual driver that this is a state worker.
How is that even right?
Because the state writes the laws, so they make it more favorable for themselves.
Well, I understand why they do it, but how do they justify it is I guess my question.
The only way you justify that is by being immoral. They create a separate set of rules for them, rules for you and not for me.
Yes.
And honestly, if we could create a grassroots effort to get that changed, it'd be great, because NOCs are extremely difficult. NOC, notice of claim, to sue the state government. They're extremely difficult, and they make it like that on purpose because, the case value has to be really high for a lot of attorneys want to pursue it. We'll take them and help the clients get the best help that they can get. But, we've signed an NOC that 7 other attorneys have rejected because of case value, they don't see it. And, I had one recently this year, a client got hit by a school bus. We had to serve 10 different people to make the notice of claim valid. If you only serve 9 of the 10, it's an invalid claim. And on day 181, you lose that claim.
Yeah, and that's the nuance. That's another nuance right out there that nobody would have known. I didn't know that. And being in the law, knowing how to read contractual language, and having gone even through law school and having the breadth of different areas of law taught to me in general, I wouldn't know it unless I did it every single day. And I've been since I've been an attorney, I got rear-ended twice, and we filed claims both times, and I did not negotiate or litigate those claims. I hired a personal injury attorney and was very glad I did. And both those, we were able to settle for what I thought was a fair amount, and I got letters from the other party personally very angry at me that I would have filed the claim and pursued it, because they're like, you were driving this big Nissan van that had a hitch on it. It was my car that got, the radiator was torn up, the hood was torn up. Like, why did you do that? And the reason why is because now my car shows it's been in 2 accidents. And we were in there, and yeah, we got some whiplash from it, and there are other things that happen. So don't think that you can handle it on your own. It's like trying to get the car manual and fix your own transmission at this point. It's like, I don't care how competent you are. If you don't fix that type of transmission every day, don't touch it. Let the experts do it.
I agree. And, on top of that, having experts by your side every single step of the way, it's a stressful and traumatic event. And knowing that you're in the best of hands is, I think, a price some people don't think about. Like they want to handle it themselves, and I understand that personality. Putting away the expert part of it, it's nice to be able to hand all the stress off on your shoulders to someone that's going to take care of you and be there for you every step of the way. That's something I think people don't.
There is a lot to be said about that,
Yeah.
because more and more studies are coming out that say the number one factor for your health is the level of stress that you experience on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about the car accident and the health, we're thinking about broken bones, we're talking about, concussions and whiplash, but stress, that's going to impact your health. And you get to determine how much stress at a certain level you're going to allow to influence you. You can allow that to be laid out on the attorneys, and you guys, you get paid for it. You get paid to handle the stress and to make sure that the damages are not going to increase the stress, because they're going to get compensated for it. So that's exactly why attorneys get paid what they do, because it's a big deal.
Yeah, if the insurance companies would treat people fairly and like they proclaim in their commercials, I would say, go ahead, handle it yourself. We wouldn't be very busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to get gray hairs at 31 every other week because that's how busy we are. So
yeah.
I like it. I'm looking forward to the salt and pepper look.
Well, you'll be fine because you have a great head of hair. Yeah. You'll just look more distinguished. I'm just worried about losing all my hair.
Yeah.
So one other thing that I was thinking about is, what is it that people aren't thinking about on a general basis when, let's say they get in an accident and it's their fault? What should they do in that case?
So when my wife got into an accident and there was a kid on a bicycle that jumped out in front of her in the neighborhood, So there was a question about who is at fault. And our insurance company at the time, which I won't name, they didn't resolve the claim. This went on for months and months and months and months. So for me and for my wife, we're like, hey, even if we were at fault, we dispute all of that. We expect our insurance company to represent us and to resolve this. And I do not want to be standing at my doorway and being held service of process. Here you're being sued by your neighbor two doors down because their child was hit. So if you're at fault, you do need to stay in contact with your insurance company and make sure they are doing the right thing to resolve this and make sure you don't get sued.
And what's the best way to do that? Do you
Calling
want
them.
Do you want to do it personally, or do you want to go to how do you do that? Can you call an attorney to make your insurance company?
So I would say if you're at fault,
Well, we're talking about bad faith then.
yeah, I would say if you're at fault and it's clear, you rear-ended someone, you're at fault in your heart.
Yeah, and a lot of us do, right? I mean, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. We got 100 things going on in our mind when we're driving.
One thing that, I'd like to talk on that note. One thing that's actually surprised me in this job is there's actually a lot more good people that tell the truth than I think society thinks, or the media lets off to know. Because your insurance company has a duty to believe you, unless there's obviously evidence, which is why I say the police report's very important. And most people are like that. Oh yeah, I messed up. I did rear-end this person. Liability's established pretty quickly. We get the car repaired pretty quickly. Everything's good. But I would say to people, if you are at fault, just don't make it worse. I've had people threaten my clients, and now that's now we're getting into felony territory. So you got to report that to Maricopa. We've had stalking incidents. Obviously those people aren't normal. They're not rationally thinking.
So what do you mean? Why would they threaten your clients?
Because
if you call the police, something's going to happen bad or something.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, threatening, and they're loitering around their home, and because people think that if you get into a car accident, you're going to get sued personally and you're going to be liable personally. And that's true if you don't have insurance. But if you have insurance, sure, you're the named defendant, but your insurance company is still going to pay up. They still have that duty to defend you, duty to pay for damages. And, it's, I guess, it's just an ignorance of the law. I mean, I thought the same thing before even working here. So it's common, I think, for people to think that if they cause an accident, it's going to come on to them. I mean, I remember my mom telling me that when I was on her insurance as a kid, don't get into an accident, they'll come after me. Well, it's not true. We're just going to go after the insurance. We don't sue people individually. We're not going to make matters worse. Most people don't have assets worth going after anyway, assets that you can even touch. We have to follow the bankruptcy rules for that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I would just say if you're at fault, just don't make it worse and cooperate.
So that leads into my next question, which is about trusts. When I have a client come in and we establish a trust, they're hesitant to put property in the trust because they say, well, if I do that, then it looks like I'm wealthy, and if I were to get in an accident, then maybe I'm a bigger target. Is there any truth to that?
Well, from the little knowledge I know of trust law, it's a separate entity, and the entity is not the one that got into the car accident, and so we cannot pursue the trust. I have actually had a claim exactly like that, where the owner put his car into a trust and then did not insure his car, caused a very terrible collision. But because the entity, the trust owned the vehicle, we would only be able to sue the trust. And we couldn't find out any assets into it or anything like that. So I'm not a trust attorney, so I can't speak to whether it's wise or not. But it doesn't immediately make you look like you have stuff to hide.
So the general advice that I give my clients, and this is after doing it for decades, is that the trust for a typical person is a revocable living trust. It's you, but it's an entity that is going to make your wishes immortal, carry on after you become incapacitated and pass away. So your liabilities are also the trust's liabilities if you retain full right to pull any assets out at any time you want. So unrestricted access to your assets, which I typically recommend to 99% of my clients. You're coming into me to make sure that your affairs are going to be handled without probate, without guardianship, without conservatorship, and by the people that you have confidence in to carry out your wishes. we're not putting them in there so you can go drive down the road drunk, recklessly, cause an accident, not be held liable and not have your property sued and taken. So that's the type of firm we have. Now, there are trusts that do protect property. They're typically irrevocable trusts that the property is placed in there. But a big misconception is just because I get a trust and put my assets in there, they're not liable for my actions. And I'm going to tell them, nope, you are the one that has total access to that trust. So if you cause the liability, then your assets are going to be responsible. So be a responsible person. You've been a responsible person up to this point. Continue doing that, right?
Yeah.
Don't go out and do anything crazy, and don't. And if they've come into me because they've gotten an accident and they want to start putting money into a trust, that's not me. That is, I don't know who does that. I know that is fraudulent. Because you know that you got a claim pending and you're trying to get rid of assets. And so what we're doing is we're just trying to help people get their affairs in order, because nobody wants the government controlling who is going to be administering their estate, who gets their property when they pass away. They want to determine that for themselves. So the trust, as far as I'm concerned with personal injury claims, is it doesn't improve your case. It doesn't make you worse off. It's the status quo. We're not doing this to change your lifestyle that way. We're doing it to make sure your wishes are carried out.
And typically, someone that's doing an estate plan is going to have the adequate insurance that we talked about.
Yes.
$100,000 in UM. So when that,
They've
like
got their-
half
they've
a
got
million
their other
dollars in
things.
liability, like there's very few accidents that we see where someone that is very well insured is going to have an issue.
Yeah.
Sure, their insurance is going to go up because they caused an accident, but other than that, is it going to kill their estate plan? No.
Right, and they, for the same reason we do LLCs and businesses. Now, if you're going to go into a business, obviously there are things that you can't control, or potentially higher risks are going to result from going into that business. Let's say you're opening up a restaurant, and you got fryers there that could cause some injury, and you want to create an LLC that's going to prevent your personal assets, your home and your car and your personal bank account from liability, then yeah, we'll put the entity around the assets that are owned by it. It's the bank account that it holds to pay the employees, any vehicles that it uses to carry out the business. And then the liability is limited to that entity for actions that occur in it that causes of liability within that. And but I say that your best case scenario gets right back to what we've been talking about this whole time, is insurance. Mm-hmm. You don't want to lose your entire business because there was a liability that occurred. Somebody mopped the floor right before a customer walked in and they slipped and broke their hip, and now that's a huge claim. And now your career, your business is going to be at risk. You think setting up an LLC is going to help you sleep better at night? Get insurance. Get property insurance. Make sure that you are just doing the common sense approaches. A lot of individuals believe that there's these rabbits that we can pull out of the hat because of the law. In reality, it's the general everyday contracts that are helping keeping people safe, and the contracts are insurance policies and who's agreed to take on liability for certain situations and those types of scenarios. So the lawyers enforce the contracts.
Yeah.
And they bring up the important clauses that need to be in the contracts. For that, of course, we get our bad reputation that, okay, we're out for blood, but that's because blood's already been spilt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. No, I agree with you wholeheartely. When I was younger, I just saw insurance as an expense, but now I'm older. Insurance is just a way to, like you said, sleep at night, protect yourself, make sure every base is covered.
Yeah.
And let the insurance companies handle it, basically.
So every attorney's got a bunch of attorney jokes. You guys have any great attorney jokes?
What's the, what do you call, was it like 10,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean?
What do you call them?
A good start?
There was one that I was going to say. So every time we have a new employee, we have our monthly attorney meeting.
Uh-huh.
And, we ask the person to tell a joke or say a fact about yourself. And with the attorneys, we always tell them no one wants to learn about you, so tell a good joke.
Yeah.
And the one that I had for mine was, how do you get a bunch of personal injury attorneys to smile for a picture? You say fees, which is funny when it's non-PI attorneys, but it was probably about the 10th time they heard that. What's your favorite joke?
My favorite joke is where a high-end New York attorney comes out to Arizona, and he's going to be doing a big land deal. And they work out the land deal. He's got 3 days scheduled on his trip to do it. They end up getting the land deal done in 2 days, so he's got an extra day left. And so the rancher that he's working with says, why don't you go out and go pheasant hunting? This is great pastime here, and you're going to have a bunch of fun. And so the attorney does. He goes out, and he's shooting. He's not a great shot, misses a few birds. Finally, one flies up, and he shoots it, but the bird coasts over a fence, and it's on somebody else's property. And there's another owner over there, and he's driving a tractor, and he sees this pheasant, coast over his fence, and so he stops his tractor, and he picks it up, and the attorney just steps through the fence and says, "Hey, that's my bird." And he says, "No, it landed on my property. It's my bird." And he goes, "Listen, I'm an attorney. I charge $1,000 an hour. If we need to litigate this, we can, but that's my bird." And he goes, "Where are you from?" He goes, "I'm from New York." He goes, "It shows." He goes, "You haven't heard of the Arizona 3-kick law, have you?" And he says, "No, I haven't." He goes, "Well, here's how it works in Arizona. I kick you 3 times, then you kick me 3 times, and whoever gives up first, then the other person wins the bird." And the guy's like, "I don't think so." He goes, "No, it's Arizona. Look it up if you want to in your spare time, but right now we got an issue to resolve." So he says, "Since it's my property, I get to go first." He's got his cowboy boots on, and so he kicks one time in the shin. The guy, he's bringing tears to his eyes, and the next one's in the groin, and he goes right down to the ground, and the next one is in the stomach, and this guy's like rolling over, and he finally gets his air back and stands back up, and he's like, "All right, it's my turn." He goes, "Nah, you can have the bird."
That's a good one.
So, yeah, a lot of times the best way to resolve a legal situation is never get into it in the first place. Settle it.
Yeah.
Do what's right.
Do what's right. Don't get kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get kicked in the nuts. Well, guys, thanks for coming on. McKenzie, Frank, it's been good to have you on. I am grateful that you take the opportunity, just because I learned more each time you're on the show, and hopefully our listeners now have a little bit more in their arsenal, so they're prepared when the inevitable happens.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
This is great.
A lot of fun.
Any last comments?
We are the title sponsors of the Somerton Tamale Festival this Saturday.
Yes, I was aware of that. Good. So that's coming up.
I'm trying to make Frank be a tamale judge.
Yes.
While simultaneously joining the tamale eating contest.
Nice.
So, come out, support, have a good time, eat a bunch of tamales, and meet the Rafi Law Group crew.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Check your insurance declaration page.
Yeah, that
Make
too.
sure you have proper insurance.
Yeah, go back and look at that.
Uninsured, underinsured, and med pay.
Okay.
That's all.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.